That brings us to the end of Genesis chapter 33. We're at verse 18, which is actually a perfect break point because verse 18 is Jacob traveling to Shechem, which is where Genesis 34 takes place at. So Genesis chapter 33, verses 18 through 20. For those that haven't been in this study the last couple of weeks, here's the overview of Genesis 33. Jacob has been coming back to the promised land as God has told him, and in the way he meets Esau. He finds out when he sends Esau a messenger saying that he's coming back, that Esau's coming to meet him with 400 men. He panics, then he prays to the Lord, then he makes preparations over a night to meet Esau the next day. The Lord shows an appearance to him, and he wrestles with the angel, almost certainly Jesus Christ, because of both his response and the angel specifically naming him Israel, meaning prince with God. That's an indication directly that this is the Lord himself, to name Jacob that. And then in his response, Israel meaning prince with God, he says, for thou hast, where's the exact verse? This is actually the end of 32, that hast thou power with God and with men and hast prevailed. The idea is use this strength against God in wrestling and against men. And so God changes his name. He meets Esau. They meet in peace and joy. And Esau says, okay, I'll come back before you. You follow me, we'll go to my land, which is Edom. It's to the side of Israel on the east side, where the last week had an X. And Jacob's response is, no, I'll follow at my own pace. We're too delicate. Our flocks could die. My children are too young. And remember, at this time, the angel has taken Jacob's hip out of joint as well. So he'd be limping as well. All of that gives way to his excuses. He refuses Esau's offer of help to go to Edom. And so Esau goes on ahead of him, trusting Jacob to follow. And instead, Jacob goes the other direction as God has told him, straight to Israel. Crosses the Jordan River at the end of Genesis 33. And that brings us to verse 18. Do I have a volunteer to read Genesis? Go ahead, Obi. 33, 18 through 20. Thank you very much. So first thing to mention, as of this time, there was a city named Salem. Melchizedek was priest of Salem. That seems to be the city that would later be called Jerusalem. But that's not what this verse is talking about. It's in the mountains. We have here the city of Shechem, the area that Jacob went to as plains. It's flat, it's beautiful for pasturing cattle. The idea of this verse is Jacob came, the word Shalem is the Hebrew shalom, meaning peace, that Jacob came in peace to a city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan. It's the idea of he came as God had promised him in peace. God had promised that he'd be with him this whole time. God has brought him there. So he comes to the city of Shechem. City means it's walled, it's small. We know because Hamor is a person who's a chief, and it's named after his son Shechem. This is a recent city too. So it's a small, recently walled city. Jacob goes to it. He pitches his tent there. So he has this colony of tents outside the walls of the city. And how does he make sure the city won't bother him? Verse 19 says he bought a parcel of a field. So he places all his tents down. He goes into the city. Who owns this field? He finds out it's Hamor, the chief. So he buys the field from him for, it says, 100 pieces of money. That's silver. It's shekels. He buys this piece of land, and now he's going to make an altar for praise to God. Now he owns the land. He's come back. He promised when he left at Bethel, if the Lord will bring me back safely, then he will be my God, and I'll give a tithe of everything. That's what Jacob promised. So now he makes this altar. And the name of the altar, Al Elohe Israel, means God, the God of Israel. And remember, he's not talking about the people of Israel, he's talking about his own name because God changed it to Israel. He's saying God is the God, he's my God. He's the God of me. That's what he is saying here. He's fulfilling his promise that God would be his God if he brought him back safely. And so he names the altar accordingly. So, starts on a very high note. God has fulfilled his promise, brought Jacob back. He's delivered him from Laban. He's delivered him from Esau. And now he's able to purchase the land where he's going to live for several years. Any questions here? So then we have Genesis chapter 34, one of the most difficult chapters in the Bible to teach, not because of interpretation, but because of the subject matter. Very first thing to mention is the Bible records things as they are. It's a true history. The people in the Bible stories are not necessarily the heroes. In a lot of cases, the people mentioned in Bible accounts do evil things, and God is still faithful, and God still protects, and God still is sovereign through all of this. Chapter 34 is that way. It's God showing his faithfulness, protecting Jacob and Israel now and his family in spite of the evil that's being perpetrated in this chapter. So what's the purposes? Genesis chapter 34 shows the first result of Jacob's decision to stay at Shechem, shows the decision Dinah has made, what the men of Shechem were like and how they treated her and how they treated Jacob and his family. It shows the evil of Simeon and Levi. They were definitely the two most wicked of the sons of Israel. And it shows God's faithfulness through all of this. Any comments here before we start? So, then we have Genesis chapter 34, verses 1 through 4. Definitely volunteer to read it. Yes, Steve.
And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and defiled her. And his soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. And he loved the damsel and spake kindly to the damsel. Jacob spake unto his father Hamor, saying, Give me this damsel to wife.
So the first thing to mention here is that many years have passed between the end of Genesis 33 and the start of Genesis 34. How do we know this? Because Jacob is married at the time when he serves Laban for 7 years for Rachel. He's married through those 7 years. He's married through the 6 years when he serves Laban for his flock. That's 13 years. Now it's been a couple months back at most. Well, Leah had 7 children with Jacob, and Dinah's the youngest. Dinah's number 7. We know already regarding the birth of Leah's 5th son that Judah, her 4th son, was old enough to find mandrakes, to realize what they are, to bring them back to her so that she could cook them. Because Rachel and Leah are arguing because Leah's like, oh, you're going to buy Jacob with your son's mandrakes. So Judah, the 4th son, is already decently old when the 5th son, which I'm making sure I get the right one, the 5th son's Zebulun, I believe. When Zebulun is born, and then you have a 6th son, Naphtali, and then you have a daughter, Dinah. So there's an age gap between the first 4 and the 5th, 6th, and 7th. Dinah's the 7th, and now she's old enough to want to go out by herself to see what ladies are like here, probably somewhere between 16 and 20. So we're talking if she's between 16 and 20, Judah is probably between 25 and 30, and the rest of the sons go up from there. They're all young adults, the 4 oldest of Leah. And so she goes out completely harmless as she thinks to see the daughters of the land. She doesn't realize problems with the city. She is abused by Shechem when he sees her. And unlike when this happens with Amnon and Tamar, David's son Amnon and Tamar, when Amnon does this, he hates Tamar. When Shechem is with Dinah, he loves her and he wants to marry her. So that's the start of these first 4 verses. The first thing to mention is by the Old Testament law, which is not in force yet, but by the law, Shechem is guilty of death, and she is not because there was no one to deliver her. Realize this is happening to her inside a walled city, and all these people she doesn't know, she can't trust. We find out afterward that Shechem is the most honorable of the people in this city. So if he's the most honorable, this is a really bad city, and basically there's no one to deliver her. He's guilty of a crime deserving death according to the law, and he sees nothing of it. He wants to marry her now. So that brings us to any questions on these first 4 verses. So now we get to, we see the responses of both families, of Jacob's family and of Hamor's family. Do I have a volunteer to read verses 5 through 8? So, go ahead, Matilda.
And I feel so need to help this piece under the key. Then the father of Shem went out to Jacob to speak. And the sons of Jacob came in front of the field when they came in. And then men were driven and were very angry because he had done these dreadful things in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, having without Nahita. But Hamor spoke to them, saying, the soul of my son Shechem belongs for your daughter. Please give him as a wife.
So, we find out the news travels quickly, understandably, and when Jacob hears it, his first decision, he holds his peace. He's waiting. He would certainly also, just like the sons, be very angry that it's happened, but he makes the decision to wait until his sons get back. So during that time, Hamor, Shechem's father, comes out to speak with Jacob. And this is during a time and a culture where marriages are arranged. So Shechem wanted to marry Dinah, so he tells his father, I want to marry Dinah. And his father goes over to Dinah's father, in this case, Jacob, and they arrange whether this marriage will take place or not, and if so, how it will take place. Similar thing happens during Samson's marriage to Tirzah. Everybody thinks of Samson and Delilah. He was married before to Tirzah, and it's same thing. The Lord used that. He sent his father over to Tirzah's father to arrange that marriage. So, they're starting that conversation, and now Jacob's sons come in. The Bible says as soon as they heard this, the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it. So as soon as they heard the news, they came back to their family, and this is their sister. They're very angry and very grieved. They're sorry for her, sorry that this has happened, and they're going to be part of the negotiations here. And their motivation is deceit. They have a hidden motivation of revenge, and they're going to make sure this revenge happens. So we have Jacob and at least his 4 oldest sons, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah. At least those 4 are here, possibly all of them, when we start verse 8. So Hamor is now going to talk with Jacob and his family. Notice there's no apology. There's no offer of restitution. Shechem didn't see anything wrong with what he did, and Hamor doesn't see anything wrong with what he did. This is the type of town we're dealing with. There are things very messed up in this town. There's no meaning of restitution. There's nothing of that sort. With both being unmarried, There's provision for the law if basically both wanted to get married, that there be a bride price and the marriage take place with both parties forbidden to divorce. So there is a part for this. After immorality, biblically, there's a part for marriage. But in this case, it's totally different as well, since this was unwilling on Dinah's part. And we're talking about a very idolatrous family. This is not just a random family of Israel that happened to have a serious sin and the recovery from this. This is a town that is very wicked, and we find out Shechem's the most honorable, and even he is doing evil, and he doesn't think of it as evil. So, with that, so Hamar's point is, okay, here's the point. My son wants to marry your daughter, now therefore, please give her his wife. And they see nothing of that. Any comments or questions here? We then have verses 9 through 12. Do I have a volunteer to read verses 9 through 12? Go ahead, Yuri.
Shechem said unto her father and unto her brother, Let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me, I will give. Ask me never so much value and give, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me. Forgive me again.
So, Hamor is expecting, people often expect that other people think the same way they do. Hamor is expecting that his idea be received positively and warmly. He's saying even, we'll make marriages, you with us and we with you, and we'll act like one people, and you'll dwell with us, like you can even live in the city, and we'll trade our possessions together. Like basically, you can be part of our family in this city. My son just wants Dinah as a wife. And so he's expecting, we see when he tries to get the men of the place to be circumcised afterward, that he says, look, if this happens, then all their property and substance will be ours. There's a hidden motive of greed here. He wants them to live together because Jacob is very wealthy, and he wants a share of the wealth that Jacob has. But he's assuming that they think the same way he is, that they're materially interested, that they'd be happy being part of an idolatrous city, and these situations, and that's absolutely not the case. I've always wondered reading this, how could he not read the room? Like, it seems like it would be extremely obvious that things are not going well as you're talking, but it's not obvious to him. We find out also Shechem came with him. So it wasn't just Hamor who came, it was Hamor and Shechem together. Hamor does what is proper in the culture, meaning he's the one trying to arrange the marriage. And then Shechem speaks in verse 11. And Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, so this is unto Israel and unto Dinah's brothers. There are 6 of them, and at least 4 of them are here. Let me find grace in your eyes. When you see people asking for grace in the Bible, they're talking about favor. So he's saying, let me find favor in your eyes. Look upon what I'm going to say in a good light. And whatever you say unto me, I will give. So he says, look, I'll give you whatever you ask. Ask me ever so much dowry and gift. So dowry being the price for the marriage. Gift, apparently he's not apologizing, but apparently he's believing he acted unwisely. And so he says, I'll even give you a gift regarding what I've done. I'll pay you back for that. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me. So he said, whatever you ask me in payment, I'll give it, but give me the damsel to wife. This is how much he loved Dinah, and he was willing to go through things. Unlike Hamor, Hamor seems to be very much approaching it from a negotiation perspective. Let's see, you give, you take, we take. Shechem's like, I'll give anything, just give me Dinah to wife. He's not interested in negotiation. He loves her, he wants to marry her. Any comments in these verses? Yes, Matilda?
See, we can see how this man is, in what place he's putting a woman, not as a
Yeah, commodity.
something like that. But so the brother give a good lesson. No, we're not selling at that. And I want to, Israelite people have a very high place for women because they know, now, the Messiah will come from a woman. See?
Yeah.
But what are Jewish people? Have a really lot of respect for the woman.
And that is definitely true in a bunch of different Jewish communities. Whereas in the Arabic side, women are very much dishonored and in some places treated as property, which, as Matilda made the comment, here that's what Hamer is assuming. Hamer is assuming that she can be bought. So, yes?
I was just wondering, or thinking, I thought it was interesting that the father didn't speak up to say something. Being that maybe he didn't realize the city was so wicked.
So Jacob's father, in this culture, you're going to be respectful and you're going to wait for the other person to finish. And it seems that Jacob's son just interrupted him and cut him off. I don't know if that's actually true, but that's the impression I get from this passage. It was the place of Jacob's father to give the response here, and Jacob's sons preempt him. They come in front of him. They say, look, here's what we're going to do. Yes? Yeah. So, Carlos made the point in the culture, the whole family agrees regarding marriages, and that Shechem believes basically it's his right as prince with his status to take her as a wife, and that's not the case. Carlos? Carlos, would you say, though, that it was Jacob, it was Israel's right expectation that he would speak first? And would you say it seems that his sons cut him off?
Yeah, because they saw his father was in what position he expected them to start. Maybe a problem not see here, but in one way, when he talked to him, he knew he had brothers and sisters. And then said, "You're very funny, number two." And that was privileged by God. No, they knew that. And that official, they said, talk about it.
Yes.
Especially Simon and Reuben.
So, there's also a responsibility there to protect the rest of their family, which is part of how they acted. But we have here verse 9, give your daughters unto us in plural, means that some of Jacob's descendants, ladies, aren't directly mentioned, aren't directly named. Dinah is because she's very important to what happens and how the Lord provides. There are others that weren't named here. And we have their response, Jacob's sons answer. I don't know if it was all four of them or if Simeon and Levi were speaking and the others were agreeing, but there is a response of Jacob's sons here. Do I have a volunteer to read verses 13 through 17? Verses 13 through 17. John, we're in Genesis chapter 34, verses 13 through 17. So, I would generally answer, no, Lorelei, sorry. I will read that. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor their father deceitfully and said, because he had defiled Dinah their sister, and they said unto him, we cannot do this thing to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us. But in this will we consent unto you. If ye will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised, then we will give our daughters unto you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. But if ye will not hearken unto us to be circumcised, then we will take our daughter, and we will be gone. So, there's a deceit here. Their hidden motive is revenge. They want to make sure that they pay not only Shechem back, but the town back for what has happened. But they say, look, we're going to give one condition to what you ask, and on this one condition we'll agree. That condition is each of you need to be circumcised because we're circumcised, and it would be a reproach for us to give our daughter to one who is not circumcised. By the way, circumcision spreads very quickly among the Canaanites, either during the time of Israel's captivity in Egypt or right after they return. And there is a reason why in 1 Samuel, David talks about these uncircumcised Philistines all the time. Because out of like the 10 people groups in the area, the Philistines were the only ones that weren't circumcised by then. But here, they say, look, all of you need to be circumcised. That way we can live together as one people, because otherwise we can't. We're different. And that's their condition. There's a hidden motivation, which is they want to destroy the town of Shechem. But that's what they say. And notice the else in verse 17. If you will not hearken unto us, if you won't listen to be circumcised, then will we take our daughter and we will be gone. That is something they could have done in general that wouldn't involve murder. There are other solutions or other situations or other responses to this that could have been given. It was obviously something they could not do to give Dinah. It would be wrong of that. But there were lots of other choices they could have done that were right. And so they're deceiving in order to perpetrate wickedness for revenge. And Hamor and Shechem, they see no deceit here. That's verses 18 through 24. What happens when they give the condition? You need to be circumcised or else we're going to leave. Do I have a volunteer to read verses 18 through 24? Okay. I will go ahead, Steve.
Their words pleased Hamor, Shechem, Hamor's son. The young man deferred not to do the thing because he had delight in Jacob's daughter. He is more honorable than all the house of his father. And Hamor, Shechem, his son, came unto the gate of the city, communed with the men of the city, saying, these men are peaceful with us, therefore let them dwell in land and trade therein for the land, and behold, it is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters to us for wives, let us give them our daughters. Only herein will the men consent unto us for to dwell with us, and to be one people, of every male among us to be circumcised as they are circumcised. Shall not their cattle and their substance and every beast of theirs be ours? Only let us consent unto them, and they will dwell with us. And unto Hamor and Shechem, his son, hearkened. All them went out of the gate of the city, and every male was circumcised. All them went out of the gate of the city.
So, their response, Hamor and Shechem's response when they hear this, is they were pleased by it. They're like, oh, this is going to go through. We can do this. Being circumcised is fair. And we see in verse 9, the young man deferred not to do the thing because he had delight in Jacob's daughter, and he was more honorable than all the house of his father. It seems that he got circumcised the same day, And based on how many days Simeon and Levi wait, for most of the people it was the next day. But it says he deferred not, he wasn't willing to delay. He delighted in Dinah, and he was more honorable than the rest of them. So he's not expecting any deceit here. He's just going to do what they ask for. With that, there is a part when Simeon and Levi come to the city, they take Dinah out of his house. So we know Dinah was actually given to him as wife here under false pretenses. He delayed not to be circumcised. They followed through with the first part to lull them into a false sense of security before Simeon and Levi come. And so, but it wasn't just Shechem that needed to be circumcised, it was all the people. So how is that going to happen? Hamor and Shechem his son came unto the gate of their city and communed with the men of their city, saying, the word communed back in the King James means had communication with. So there we had communication with all the people. There's only one gate to the city, which is how you know the city has a wall. And what's the best way to then meet everybody? They all need to work outside in the fields and with their livestock. They all need to come back through the city to be in their houses to go and sleep. So they wait at the gate of the city. They catch everybody coming in, and they tell them this. Look, these men are peaceable with us, which is absolutely not true, but that's what they believe. Therefore, let them dwell in the land and trade within. Like, we've already given the spot. We'll let them dwell anywhere and trade in our city. The land, it's large enough for them. Like, they may be rich, but we have plenty of land here. It's not like they're running us out of space. Let us take their daughters to us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. So we're going to live as one people. And then they mention the condition, verse 22 and 23. Only herein will the men consent unto us for to dwell with us to be one people, if every male among us be circumcised as they are circumcised. And then we see, okay, so they gave us a condition of being circumcised. Here's the reason why. Because they're rich and you can get part of their riches. They appeal immediately to greed and envy. We see very much that Shechem is the most honorable. His motivations are not this way. The rest of the men are swayed by the greed and envy. We're going to get part of his riches. Shall not their cattle and their substance, which means possessions, and every beast of theirs be ours? Only let us consent unto them, and they will dwell with us. And it says, unto Hamor and unto Shechem his son, hearkened all that went out of the gate of his city. Every single one of them was swayed by this argument of, we're going to be rich, we're going to get part of his riches, we're going to live together. Basically, we're going to swindle him. And so they all decide to be circumcised. Now, regarding timing, both because Levi and Simeon wait an extra day, you're not going to get circumcised unless you're Shechem before going to sleep, because it's going to be a miserable night. You wait till the morning, and you make it a miserable day instead. And that's what seems to have happened. The day after, everybody's coming in at the evening. The day after they get circumcised, everybody's in pain. And then we have on the third day. First day is when all this happens with Dinah. Second day is presumably when everybody decides to get circumcised. The third day is now they haven't slept for one day, and they're still really in pain, and all the stuff that goes with that. And that's when Simeon and Levi come. So that's what seems to be the case. That's what seems to be implied here. Levi and Simeon definitely took their time to make this as, I guess, destructive as possible. I was trying to think of other words. There aren't many words to sugarcoat that. Any comments before we get to verses 25 and following? Okay, so I will read verse 25 to 29. And it came to pass on the third day, when they were sore, that two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brethren, took each man his sword and came upon the city boldly and slew all the males. And they slew Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah out of Shechem's house and went out. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain and spoiled the city, because they had defiled their city. They took their sheep and their oxen and their asses and that which was in the city and that which was in the field, and all their wealth and all their little ones and their wives took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, Ye have troubled me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and I being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. And they said, that's Simeon and Levi, should he deal with our sister as with an harlot? So, Simeon and Levi, on the third day, 2 days after all this happened with Dinah, they come to the city. None of the men can fight back, so they kill all of the men. That's what it talks about with males. We're not talking about children here. We're talking about men. They killed all the men, including Hamor and Shechem. They took Dinah out. So they'd already given her as wife under false pretenses. They rescue her. What else? They decide to plunder the city. So that's verse 27. They don't just kill Hamor and Shechem. They take the whole city out. Then they take possessions, sheep and oxen, so all the livestock that are out in the fields now, they take all of that which was in the city and that which was in the field, and all their wealth, so all the stuff that was in their house, and their little ones. They take all the children as slaves, and their wives took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house. So they not only take Shechem out, who had committed the sin, they take him and his family out, and the rest of the city, and then they take all their stuff, and all their children and wives as slaves. This and how the Lord views it disqualifies them as being in the ruling line of Israel. Reuben's disqualified for other reasons. Simeon and Levi are disqualified for this, which is why Judah and the line of Judah is the royal line of Israel, is because the first three were disqualified. And also, through the end of Genesis, God gives this as a reason for dividing Simeon and Levi and Jacob and scattering them in Israel. Levi was divided because of the priesthood. They were required to live like all throughout the people. And if you see what happens with Simeon, they gained one inheritance. It wasn't enough. So they gained a second inheritance that was part of Judah, splitting them to start. Some of the people moved to the northern kingdom in the split, then moved back when things became really bad under Jeroboam. And when you see what happens to Simeon, Simeon goes all over the place of Judah in fulfillment of what God has spoken. And it's in God's judgment regarding this. God's still faithful through it. What Shechem did was very wrong and a crime deserving of death. Simeon and Levi did a whole lot of crimes deserving of death. Like, there are lots and lots and lots of things here between the murder and the slavery and so on and so forth that the law condemns as being worthy of death. And they did that. And we see Jacob's response in verse 30 is not condemning them for wrongdoing directly, although he would certainly have done that. He's just not going to talk to them directly about it. His response is, look what you've done. Look at how everybody else sees this. You've made me to stink among all the inhabitants of the land. They're all going to hear of this and they're all going to hate me. The Canaanites and Perizzites are going to come and they're going to kill me and they're going to kill all of you, my entire house, which incidentally is what would have happened. But we see in the next chapter, it mentions the fear of the Lord fell upon all the nations around Jacob, so they didn't chase them. God protects them. But Jacob's response here is very much the correct assessment of the situation. Like, they're going to hear that one family massacred a village, and they're going to take me out as well. So we have Canaanites and Perizzites. When you see the Perizzites mentioned in the Bible, we're not talking about a specific descent line. The Canaanites are the descendants of Canaan. The Perizzites, the word seems to mean in Hebrew village people. It has the idea of people out in the fields. It has the idea of people who don't live in walled cities. The people who live way out, the rural people, that's what the word Perizzite seems to mean. So the Canaanites have the cities with the Amorites. They have the great cities. The Perizzites are just the random people in the country. And Jacob's like, you've made everybody hate me so much that all of them are going to come and they're going to fight against me. And their response in verse 30 and 31, Simeon and Levi see what they did as right as well. They're thinking that town deserved it. That was a wicked town, but it was not their place to carry out justice. But their response for why this is justified is, look at the way he treated our sister. He treated our sister this way. Should he have got away with that? No, so we took out the whole town. That's why they see what they did as right. This is also when what happens with Joseph in the coat of many colors coming up. You see the kind of people that Joseph's older brothers were. It seems Reuben was a lot more rational, a lot calmer. Reuben had plans to deliver Joseph. Judah, he was very economical. He was one who came up with the settlement of slavery. But Simeon and Levi, they were all for murdering Joseph. That was their solution to problems they had. And it shows God hates sin, but God also uses wicked people in his purposes. And this did not affect the purposes of God. This did not affect how God would work. In fact, in the next verse, God speaks to Jacob and uses this so that Jacob moves where the Lord wants him. And then God continues to protect Jacob and his whole family. So all that to say, God judges perfectly in eternity. There is no person who's going to question God's judgment and say it's unfair. On this earth, God oftentimes postpones judgment. And oftentimes, God does not directly deal with things. All the time, God does not treat sin as severely on this earth as it deserves to be treated. If it did, people just would immediately die upon sin because that's what sin deserves. But God restrains, God, the Bible says, forbears. God forbears his judgment until the future, until the glorious, I was thinking of the word. I was thinking of Greek. The glorious epiphany of Jesus Christ. Closest word I can come up with in English is the glorious advent of Jesus Christ. When Jesus Christ is where he's supposed to be on the great white throne with all of his glory, that's when God is fully judging all the sin that has happened, and he's going to judge perfectly. But we see until this, God is still faithful, and God still protects and provides for Jacob and his family. Did I have any comments or questions to close the study? It's definitely one of the most difficult chapters in the book of Genesis to teach, and it definitely is the darkest chapter in the whole book. From here on, we see God's greatness in a much more positive sense, and we see how he works out things not just to protect Jacob and his family from sin, but how to greatly bless them as they follow, as they go to the places God has directed for them. God sustains them, provides for them, organizes everything in Egypt through Joseph, and you can go through a list. The rest of the chapters of Genesis are a lot more positive. Thank you for putting up with this one. And if there are lessons to leave you with, it's that sin does not affect God in the fulfillment of his purposes, and God is faithful regardless. So with that, let's go to prayer. Dear Lord God, I thank you for today, and I thank you for the testimony of Scripture here, for your faithfulness, for the value you showed in the way that you not only treated this situation here, but the way you treat each one of us. We pray here that you would be honored and glorified the rest of today. And we thank you as well that you record everything accurately in the Scriptures, and you are not interested in showing men as better or worse than they are, but that through this we see both the power of sin and the power of your grace and providence regardless. In Jesus' name, amen.